In the shadow of a city forged in fire and ice, where the Neva River cuts through the heart of a besieged empire, a boy was born into the unyielding grip of Soviet steel. October 7, 1952. Leningrad, the cradle of revolution, still scarred by the ghosts of the Great Patriotic War. His name, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. The youngest of three sons to Vladimir Spiridonovich, a factory foreman and wounded veteran of the Red Army, and Maria Ivanovna, a resilient survivor who toiled in the shadows of ration lines and rubble. His grandfather Spiridon had once stirred the pots for titans, Vladimir Lenin and Joseph Stalin himself, whispering secrets over meals that shaped nations. But for young Volodya, as his mother called him, the legacy was one of loss. Two brothers preceded him into the world, only to be claimed by its cruelty. One in infancy during the famines of the 1930s, the other, Victor, succumbing to diphtheria and starvation in 1942, amid the 900-day siege that devoured Leningrad's soul, claiming over 1 million lives. Bombs fell like judgments from the sky. His family's wooden home reduced to ashes, his mother buried alive in the debris, clawing her way out to live another day. In that crucible of endurance, Putin learned the first lesson of survival. Resilience is not chosen, it is hammered into the bone. Picture him there, a scrawny child in a cramped communal apartment on Baskov Lane, sharing a single kitchen with strangers, the air thick with the scent of boiled cabbage and whispered grievances against the unseen hand of the state. School number 193 in 1960, a place of rigid order where uniforms pressed like iron and the young pioneers' red scarves symbolized unyielding loyalty. But Putin was no model pioneer at first. He roamed the courtyards like a feral cat, fists flying in endless scraps with neighborhood toughs. "I was a hooligan," he would later confess, his voice steady as Siberian frost. It was the streets that schooled him in the raw calculus of power: who yields, who strikes first, who walks away unbroken. At 12, salvation arrived in the form of a judo dojo, its mats stained with the sweat of discipline. Sambo followed, Russia's brutal fusion of wrestling and judo, and by 18 he was a regional champion, his body a coiled spring, his mind sharpened like a bayonet. Books became his second arena. The adventure tales of Soviet spies, where shadows outwitted empires, igniting a fire that would burn for decades. High School 281, with its elite German immersion program, polished his tongue in the language of foes and friends alike. Fluent, fierce, he delivered speeches that echoed with the cadence of command. Yet beneath the accolades lurked a quiet hunger, not for glory, but for the levers that moved the world unseen. By 1970, the boy from the siege city crossed the threshold of Leningrad State University, its halls echoing with the ghosts of Bolshevik dreams. Law was his battlefield, international law his weapon, a thesis on the most favored nation principle, dissecting the treaties that bound nations like chains. He joined the Communist Party, as all ambitious souls must, pledging fealty to a system that demanded everything and gave little back. There, in the lecture halls, he met Anatoly Sobchak, a professor of business law whose intellect burned bright as a samovar coal. Sobchak would become mentor, patron, the bridge from academia to the corridors of power. But Putin's gaze was fixed elsewhere. At 23, in the summer of 1975, he knocked on the door of the KGB, the sword and shield of the Soviet state, and was welcomed in. Training began at once. the 401st School in Okhta, then the elite Yuri Andropov Red Banner Institute in Moscow, where he learned the dark arts of surveillance, recruitment, and deception. Alias Mr. Platonov, he plunged into counterintelligence, patrolling Leningrad's fog-shrouded streets, eyes on diplomats and dissidents, ears tuned to the whispers of treason. It was a world of grey files and colder motives, where loyalty was currency and betrayal the ultimate sin. Then came Dresden, 1985, a posting in the heart of the German Democratic Republic, the Iron Curtain's fraying edge. Under diplomatic cover as a translator, Putin burrowed into the Stasi's labyrinth, liaising with East Germany's secret police, recruiting assets from the shadows of opera houses and beer halls. Lieutenant Colonel by 1989, he orchestrated quiet sabotages, monitored NATO's underbelly, and even tangled with whispers of the Red Army faction's terrorists, though the full truth remains veiled in classified dust. Life there was a veneer of normalcy, family outings to the Elbe, his wife Lyudmila teaching German, their daughters Maria and Katerina born amid the GDR's concrete embrace. But the storm broke on November 9th, 1989, the Berlin Wall crumbling like stale bread under protester boots. In Dresden, crowds surged toward the Stasi archives. Putin, outnumbered, barricaded the doors, burned files in a frantic furnace blaze until the flames rebelled, forcing him to plead for orders that never came. I felt the ground slipping from under my feet, he recalled, the weight of an empire's unraveling pressing like a vice. Cables to Moscow went unanswered. The center, it seemed, could not hold. By January 1990, he was recalled, a ghost in transit, his Dresden dreams ashes. Back in Leningrad, he lectured briefly at the university, eyes already scanning for the next horizon. The August 1991 coup against Gorbachev tested him one final time. On the second day, he resigned from the KGB, Lieutenant Colonel no more, casting his lot with the reformers. The Soviet Union gasped its last that December, and Putin, at 39, stood on the ruins, ready to rebuild. St. Petersburg, renamed in the heady days of perestroika, beckoned like a siren. In May 1991, Putin joined Mayor Anatoly Sobchak's team as advisor on international affairs, a role that swelled to head of the Committee for External Relations by June. Here was the forge of his political steel, negotiating with foreign investors amid Russia's wild 1990s, bartering food for oil in desperate deals that fed a starving city but drew shadows of scandal. As first deputy mayor from 1994, he oversaw billions in contracts, his desk a battleground of oligarch ambitions and municipal graft. Sobchak's 1996 defeat scattered the faithful. Putin, unscathed by probes into his tenure, packed for Moscow that August. The Kremlin swallowed him whole. Deputy to Pavel Borodin in the Presidential Property Management Department, auditing the Tsar's ghosts amid Yeltsin's vodka-fueled chaos. By 1997, he commanded the main control directorate, rooting out corruption like a surgeon's scalpel. March 1998, Deputy Chief of Staff. July, Director of the FSB, the KGB's heir, where he purged rivals and rebuilt the Siloviki, the security elite, into a fortress. March 1999, Secretary of the Security Council. And then, August 9th, 1999, the thunderclap. Prime Minister appointed by a faltering Boris Yeltsin, heir apparent in a nation adrift. The Second Chechen War ignited like dry tinder. Apartment bombings in Moscow and beyond, Buynaksk, Volgodonsk, claimed over 300 lives in September 1999, blamed on Chechen militants but shrouded in enduring mystery. Putin's response was swift, unyielding. Airstrikes, ground assaults, a vow to pursue terrorists everywhere. Poles soared. The man from Leningrad became the avenger Russia craved. Yeltsin, shadows lengthening under health's siege, resigned on December 31st, 1999. His handoff a velvet glove over an iron fist. Acting president at 47, Putin called snap elections. March 26, 2000. Victory with 53%, the youngest Russian leader since the Romanovs. Inaugurated May 7th in the Kremlin's gilded halls, he stood before a nation fractured by oligarchs and poverty, whispering promises of order amid the oligarchs' gilded excess. "We must restore the might of the Russian state," he declared, his voice a low rumble like distant artillery. The first term unfolded as a masterstroke of consolidation. May 2000. Decree carving Russia into 7 federal districts, each with a presidential envoy, a web to bind the periphery to Moscow's will. Governors, once feudal lords, lost direct election in 2004, nominated by the centre. The upper house of parliament reformed. Power vertical as a Siberian pine. Economically, fortune smiled. Oil prices rocketed from $25 a barrel to over $100, flooding coffers with black gold. GDP surged 7% yearly. Poverty halved. Soviet debts extinguished by 2005. A flat 13% income tax in 2001 ignited enterprise. Land codes unlocked frozen acres. Pensions reformed amid outcry. Yet the blade cut both ways. Oligarchs like Boris Berezovsky and Vladimir Gusinsky fled into exile, their media empires seized for disloyalty. Mikhail Khodorkovsky, Yukos titan, arrested in 2003 on tax charges, his 10 billion empire carved up, a warning etched in Siberian ice. The media bowed. NTV nationalized, independent voices muffled. The Kursk submarine tragedy in August 2000, 118 sailors lost in Arctic depths, tested his steel. Initial denials gave way to somber vows, but the echo of "it sank" lingered as a scar. Foreign winds shifted post-September 11, 2001. Putin, first foreign leader to call George W. Bush, offered bases for the Afghan war, overflights for American bombers, a bridge across the Atlantic. NATO partnerships bloomed. The G8 welcomed Russia in 2002, but cracks spiderwebbed. NATO's eastward creep, the 2003 Rose Revolution in Georgia, toppling a pro-Moscow ally, US missile shields in Eastern Europe. "We are not aggressive," Putin countered at the 2007 Munich Security Conference, his words a gauntlet. The unipolar world is unacceptable. Domestically, Beslan's horror in September 2004, over 300 dead in a school siege by Chechen militants, sealed his centralization, birthing a fortress state. Re-elected March 2004 with 71%, his mandate ironclad. Yet whispers grew. Sovereign democracy, they called it, a Russian path, veiled in elections, but steered by the Kremlin hand. The Orthodox Church, once sidelined, became ally. Patriarch Alexei II blessed the revival of faith amid crumbling atheism. Putin, baptized in secret as a child, crossed himself publicly, weaving spirituality into the national tapestry. Constitutional chains bound him. 2 terms only. May 2008. Dmitry Medvedev inaugurated, a technocratic placeholder. Putin became prime minister, the tandem's shadow emperor. The global crisis crashed like a wave. Russia's stocks plunged 40%, GDP shrank 8%. But stimulus and oil's rebound pulled it shore. The Russo-Georgian War, August 2008. South Ossetia shelled, Russian tanks rolled, Tbilisi spared only by ceasefire. 5 days of fury recognized Abkhazia and South Ossetia as sovereign, a red line drawn in the Caucasus. Military reforms followed, officer corps slashed, brigades modernized, a professional army forged from conscript clay. Abroad, the pivot sharpened. SCO summits with China, arms deals with India, overtures to Turkey. September 2011. The announcement. Putin for president again. Protests erupted, Moscow's streets alive with chants of Russia without Putin, the largest since Soviet days. Fraud allegations scorched the March 2012 election. He claimed 64%. Inaugurated May 7, 2012, the bear roared back. Laws tightening on assemblies, NGOs branded foreign agents, a noose on dissent. The third term burned with ambition. Sochi 2014, $2 billion in snow and steel, the Winter Olympics a glittering stage, gold medals piled, but shadows loomed, a suicide bombing in Volgograd, anti-gay laws branding propaganda a crime. Then Ukraine's Euromaidan winter, Yanukovych fled, revolution's fire lit. March 2014. Crimea annexed after a referendum decried as farce, 97% yes, under Russian boots. Little green men seized Simferopol. Putin signed the treaty March 18th, reclaiming the Black Sea jewel lost in 1954. The West howled, sanctions bit, ruble reeled. But Putin framed it as reunion, historic justice. Donbass ignited, separatists armed, MH17 downed in July, 298 souls lost to a Buk missile's arc. Minsk Accords in 2014 and 2015 stitched fragile peace, but the thread frayed. Syria called in September 2015. Airstrikes for Assad, turning the tide against rebels. Russia reborn as Middle East arbiter. Palmyra recaptured, Aleppo held. Putin's jets redrew maps, alliances with Iran and Turkey forged in fire. Re-elected March 2018 with 77%, the fourth term dawned amid pension riots and Skripal poisonings. Novichok in Salisbury, Britain's fury. Navalny jailed, protests crushed. Constitutional rewrite in 2020. Terms reset, potentially to 2036. God invoked in preambles. Marriage man-woman. COVID gripped. Lockdowns. Sputnik 5. Vaccine rushed. Economy contracting 3.1%. Approval dipped to 27% in open polls. Fears chill wind. Yet the machine ground on. Import substitution against sanctions. Military budget swelled. Putin's image. Judo black belt. Bare-chested horseman. Tiger whisperer. Cultivated like a myth. Songs and statues his chorus. Two daughters, Maria and Katerina, shielded from spotlight. Divorce from Lyudmila in 2014. Whispers of Alina Kabaeva's shadow children. Wealth veiled. Official salary modest, but palaces and yachts traced to inner circles. Then the thunder of February 24th, 2022. Zelensky's Kyiv beckoned. Putin, from the war room, declared special military operation. Denazification, demilitarization, a 3-day march to history's correction. Tanks rolled, missiles rained. Kiev held, but Mariupol fell in ruins. Bucha's horrors unearthed. The world recoiled. Sanctions crushed SWIFT. Oligarch yachts seized. NATO swelled with Finland and Sweden. Putin raged at Munich echoes. The West arms Nazis again. Partial mobilization in September 2022. 300,000 called. Borders stormed by the fearful. Wagner's mutiny. June 2023. Prigozhin's march on Moscow halted short, his plane plummeting weeks later. Yet the front crept. Avdiivka taken. Crimea Bridge bombed thrice. In his 2023 year-end address, regret slipped. We should have acted sooner, prepared better, like Crimea. Nuclear saber rattled, lowered thresholds, drills with hypersonics. ICC warrant. March 2023. For child deportations, ignored. He jetted to South Africa. BRICS embrace. 2024 dawned defiant. Election March 17th. 87%. Amid carousel fraud and occupied ballots. Crocus City Hall massacre. March 22nd. ISIS claimed 144 lives. Putin pointed to Kiev. Borders sealed. Prisoner swap. August. Gershkovich freed. Kara-Murza and Yashin exiled. The largest since Cold War's end. Prisoner exchange in Ankara. 26 souls traded. North Korea packed June. Kim's packed for munitions. Troops rumored in Kursk. Trump's return. November. Ceasefire calls. But Putin held firm. Azerbaijan jet crash December 2024. Russian anti-air fire downing a Baku flight. Apology tendered. Compensation vowed. New Year's Eve. Everything will be fine. Broadcast to a nation wearied by inflation's bite. Rubles slide. Into 2025, the grind endures. Istanbul talks May. Putin demands 4 regions ceded. Ukraine recoils. Trump tweets April. Vladimir, stop. 5,000 die weekly. Peace now. Budapest summit looms. Trump's hand outstretched. Advances in Donbas. 5,000 square kilometers claimed by October. Meat grinder tactics with kamikaze waves. Strikes pound Kiev. Zelensky vows resistance. Victory Day parade. May 9th. Global South guests, but Assad's fall in Syria a sting. Russia's ally toppled. Influence ebbed. Prisoner swap echoes. More releases. But Navalny's ghost haunts. Health murmurs. Parkinson's shadows. Dismissed by Kremlin steel. Judo Federation banned since 2022. Zenit cheers fill voids. Putin, at 73, rides the tiger. Economy war hardened. Alliances with China ironclad. Power of Siberia gushing. SCO summits iron bonds. Arctic claims deepen. Nuclear arsenal gleams. From Leningrad's boy to Kremlin's sentinel, Vladimir Putin's arc traces Russia's soul. Siege-born grit, KGB shadows, oligarch wars, imperial revanchism, triumphs tower, economy revived, Syria seized, Crimea clasped, costs carved deep, dissent silenced, Ukraine scarred, isolation's chill. As autumn 2025 fades, he stands unbowed, eyes on eternity's board. The bear slumbers not. It watches, waits, endures. In the end, as in the siege, survival is the only victory. And Russia, under his gaze, presses on.